Hello there everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new, welcome back if you aren't, I'm EDJ, and we are continuing with Belisarius from Epic History TV. So last time, with an invasion force of about 17,000, Belisarius took back the very lucrative and, great Roman provinces of, North Africa, and yeah, insane, dude. I was kind of a bit 17,000, that's kind of small, Belisarius, because obviously, I've been watching so many of these other Roman videos where they just field 60 or 80,000 men whenever, so I was kind of 17,000, that's a bit low, but he went on and just completely destroyed the Vandals, so I'm like, okay, you're a man who can accomplish a lot with, not the largest army, because around the medieval era, right, to where even the Byzantines go into, that armies weren't that big, but either way, impressed, very impressed, and I like his character. He comes across very honorable, no looting, no excess, overall very honorable. I believe in God, I'm a Christian. This is a Christianized Rome, so I'm kind of okay, I'm getting you, Belisarius. I'm kind of really liking you. Let's see, for the Battle of Rome, which I know he does take, because I was looking at a map for the reign of Emperor Justinian, and it was the largest the Eastern Roman Empire got, and it took back a lot of the West. So we know he's gonna make Rome Roman again, right? So finally, guys, let's get to it. Let's make Rome Roman again. Let's get to it.
534 AD. Flavius Belisarius, Eastern Roman general, has waged one of the most successful campaigns in the empire's history. The complete reconquest of North Africa in just 6 months. Almost without loss.
Insane.
He is well rewarded by Emperor Justinian. He celebrates his victory with a triumph in Constantinople.
Well earned.
And receives the title of consul. Belisarius has helped Justinian's regime survive political crisis. Now his victory offers irrefutable proof of God's divine sanction. Emboldened, Justinian will pursue a new strategic vision. The reconquest of the Western Roman Empire, and its reunification.
Ambitious, and he comes close. He comes closer than most into reunifying Rome, right? I can't think of anyone else who comes that close, but ambitious. Unfortunately, after his reign, it all kind of starts shrinking again. But man. You think about it, all these groups, right, are obviously the Franks, France, Britain. Yeah, all these groups, right, they're kind of spawn the more medieval societies that we know, right? So, that we come to know, which is kind of funny, because they all, coming from the groups that, sacked and destroyed Rome, all argue, right? Who's the heir of Rome? Isn't that a big thing everyone wants? Especially after Rome, it's who's the heir of Rome? Who's the true successor? It's didn't some of you destroy and want to get rid of Rome? But either way, it's truth is, everyone just wants to be Rome. Every society just wants to be Rome. They sacked Rome out of jealousy that they weren't Rome. No, I'm joking. I'm joking around, guys, right now. But that's a funny thought I was having to myself. So let's get to it.
Belisarius' next mission will be to Italy, where he will fight a desperate struggle for the eternal city, Rome itself.
Let's take it back, Belisarius. We need Rome to be Roman again.
60 years have passed since the Western Roman Empire fell to barbarians. Many kings emerged to rule over its shattered remains. Above them all towered Theodoric the Great. With Eastern Roman approval, he'd led his Ostrogoth warbands from the Balkans into Italy. He overthrew and killed Odoacer, the man who'd deposed the last Western emperor and forged his own Goth superstate.
Wasn't the last Western emperor named, like, Augustus or, like, Romulus? I think it was Romulus or something. Like, it was kind of ironic, right? A last emperor of Rome would be named after, like, the founder or something. That's what I remember. I did not know he got approval from the eastern part of Rome to do that. Wow.
Theodoric, an Arian Christian, worked with the Senate in Rome and sought close relations with the Eastern Roman Empire. To Emperor Anastasius, he wrote, "Our royalty is an imitation of yours, modelled on your good purpose, a copy of the only empire." Procopius, the 6th century historian and aide to Belisarius, would himself praise Theodoric as, in name a tyrant, but in fact an emperor, no less than any who've ever distinguished themselves in that office. In the eyes of his supporters, Theodoric had revived the Western Roman Empire.
Wow, Theodoric's coming across as a complete Chad. I just know things are about to go wrong, right? Does he turn on them, or does someone else seize power? I don't know, but this is going too well. Is he? I'm getting the impression he might turn on them, or that this was a long con. Or maybe he really is just that great, and my other thought is someone kills him and usurps power who doesn't like Rome. Alright, well, let's find out.
In all but name. But the succession would unravel his great achievement. Theodoric had 3 daughters, so his heir was to have been his son-in-law, Eutharic, but he died 4 years before the king, in 522. The succession passed to Theodoric's 10-year-old grandson, Athalaric. His mother, the highly educated and formidable Amalasuntha, ruled as regent. In defending her position, Amalasuntha made powerful enemies among the Goths, and when her son died aged just 18, one of those enemies, her cousin Theodahad, became king. In 535, he has Amalasuntha imprisoned on an island in the middle of Lake Borsina. Weeks later, assassins arrive. They're rumored to be vengeful relatives of men Amalasuntha had killed during her regency. The daughter of Theodoric the Great is strangled in her bath. Theodahad thinks he can quietly eliminate his rival without repercussions. But Amalasuntha had been a trusted ally of the Emperor Justinian, and he is looking for an excuse for war.
Wow.
And the Emperor, upon learning what had befallen Amalasuntha, immediately entered.
What was interesting about that is that Theodoric essentially, on the behalf of the eastern portion of Rome, took back a lot of the west. I mean, it still wasn't considered under, like, a unified Rome, but essentially he was kind of like their puppet emperor, it came across, right? Or at least they're cool with him ruling because he's tied with Rome, with the Byzantines, you know? That's interesting, I suppose. That they didn't just say, alright, it's all ours now, annexed, you know? But, I don't know, I guess Theodoric was just that great that they were cool with him.
Upon the war, being in the 9th year of his reign. For Justinian, chaos at the Ostrogoth court presents an opportunity. After success in North Africa, he wants Italy for the empire. The strategic and symbolic gains will be immense. Before her death, Amalasuntha had offered him the kingdom in exchange for political asylum. Now Justinian pressures Theodahad, a notoriously corrupt and greedy man, to accept the same deal or face war.
Wow.
Justinian's tough diplomacy is backed up by military deployments. Mundus, commanding the army in Illyria, advances into Goth-controlled Dalmatia and takes Salona, the modern city of Split. Belisarius, meanwhile, is ordered to sail with 9,000 men to Sicily to see if the Goths there will put up a fight. Only the garrison of Palermo offers resistance, which is soon overcome. The rest of Sicily submits to the Romans without a fight.
Dang. They are just taking back so much of their lost land, right? They are moving at quite the speed.
Last day of 535, Belisarius marks the end of his consulship, scattering coins to the crowds in Syracuse as his troops march triumphantly through the city. As negotiations continue in the Goth capital Ravenna between Theodahad and Justinian's envoy, Solomon, Praetorian prefect of North Africa, arrives in Sicily with alarming news from Carthage. The army, angered by late pay and religious discrimination, has murdered its officers and mutinied. Belisarius immediately sails for Carthage with just 100 picked men. His own formidable reputation, plus generous handouts of cash, quickly secures the loyalty of 2,000 troops, whom he leads out to face the 9,000 mutineers. The mutineer army is a motley crew of Romans, mercenaries, renegade Vandals, and escaped slaves, commanded by Stotzas, a former Belisarius. They have no generals and little discipline.
And that's why they've already lost. Oh man, he has like 100. Wait. He has 100 dudes, and he's about to face this. But again, doesn't matter how much the numbers, because without a great leader and without discipline, you know, it doesn't matter, right? So I'm getting the impression Belisarius is about to school them. If he's about to do it with just 100 dudes, dang.
Tries to maneuver his army into a better position. It becomes badly disordered. Belisarius immediately launches an all-out attack. Stotzas and his army turn and run. Belisarius has saved Carthage, but the war in North Africa against Berbers and rebels will drag on for 15 more years. This task falls to Solomon, as Belisarius must race back to Sicily to quash another mutiny among his own troops. In the Balkans, meanwhile, a Goth counterattack results in the death of General Mundus, and the Romans make a tactical withdrawal. When news of this minor triumph reaches King Theodahad, he feels suddenly emboldened and rejects all Justinian's demands.
Dang.
Belisarius receives new orders. He is to cross the Strait of Messina and reconquer Italy from the Ostrogoths. Belisarius lands in Italy with barely 8,000 men. The bulk of his troops are infantry, including 3,000 Isaurians, fierce warriors from the Taurus Mountains of Anatolia. His cavalry includes Hun and Berber mercenaries, as well as the elite Bucellari, the picked troops maintained by Belisarius, and other senior commanders. As in North Africa, he is accompanied on campaign by his wife Antonina, a capable and trusted ally of Empress Theodora. That the Emperor entrusts the campaign to such a small force, when the Goths can field an army 4 times its size, indicates Justinian's supreme confidence in Belisarius.
We did see Belisarius accomplish much with 17,000. Took back basically Africa, but yeah, this is even smaller. But man, can a man like Belisarius use small numbers to accomplish big things, right? Let's see.
But it is also a sign that he has badly underestimated the Goths and their will to fight. Belisarius's army is welcomed by southern Italians and meets no opposition as far as Naples. This city has strong walls and a garrison of 800 Goths. Belisarius appeals directly to its citizens, urging them to throw open the gates. and warning of the dire consequences of an assault. I pray that an ancient city, which has long been inhabited by Christians and Romans, may not meet with such a fortune, especially at my hands as a commander of Roman troops. The citizens of Naples are divided, but ultimately their leaders reject the demand to hand over the city. When Belisarius's troops sneak into the city using an old aqueduct, there is a savage slaughter of Goths and Italian citizens alike, until the general can restore order. The main Ostrogoth army has been standing idle 60 miles to the north. Theodahad, never suited to military command, and now unsettled by omens, does nothing to save Naples. It's his own death sentence. He is deposed and killed.
Dang.
Vitigis becomes the new king of the Ostrogoths. He is in his 60s, but he's an experienced soldier who fought alongside Theodoric the Great. He assumes that Belisarius must be leading a large army up from the south, and wants more time to gather his forces. He also plans to negotiate a truce with the Franks, which will free up more troops for the war against the Romans. So, leaving 4,000 men to hold Rome, Vitigis withdraws to Ravenna. Belisarius garrisons Naples and advances up the old Roman road, the Via Latina, to Rome. But as he nears the great city, the Goths simply abandon it.
Wow.
They march out through the Porta Flaminia, as Belisarius and his army march in through the Porta Asinaria, a gate which, though much restored, survives to this day. 60 years after the fall of the Western Empire, Rome once more belongs to the Romans. Belisarius duly dispatches the keys to the city to Emperor Justinian. Rome in the 6th century is still a great city, but a shadow of its former glory. In its imperial heyday, Rome's population had been around 500,000. Now it's just a fifth of that. But it remains the seat of the Roman Senate and the Pope, and a city of intense emotional and cultural significance to all Romans. The city is also notoriously difficult to defend, which is why the Goths have abandoned it. The famous Aurelian walls are crumbling, and at 12 miles in length are too long for a small army to easily hold. The Goths had also worried that Rome's large population might turn against them. Belisarius is down to 7,000 men, not enough to face the Goths in open battle. So he sends detachments to garrison key strongholds along the Via Flaminia, the road to Ravenna, which he hopes will delay the inevitable Goth advance. While in Rome, he and his men begin hurried preparations for a siege. The walls are repaired, and merlons are added. A deep moat is dug around the city. The granaries are filled with grain. All Rome's adult male citizens are conscripted into the city guard. Vitigis, meanwhile, has been told how small Belisarius' army is. Embarrassed by his earlier caution, he gives the order for his reinforced army to march on Rome.
Dang.
His chief concern is to get there before Belisarius can escape. But Belisarius has no plans to flee. And whoever of you has hopes of setting foot in Rome without a fight is mistaken in his judgment. For as long as Belisarius lives, it is impossible for him to relinquish this city. Such were the words of Belisarius. 537 AD. In early spring, Vitigis leads a huge Goth army, probably more than 30,000 men, down the Via Flaminia, sweeping past the small Roman outposts. Belisarius plans to fight a delaying action a mile and a half north of the city at the Milvian Bridge. But his infantry, terrified by the size of the Goth army, abandon the bridge without a fight. Belisarius is left facing the Goth army with just 1,000 horsemen. He orders his men to charge.
Dang, he's going for it. Like, these numbers would be... they would terrify me too, are you kidding me? Like, 30,000 guys are charging us, we got like, what, 7,000? Oh man, like the numbers, man.
Belisarius himself fights in the front rank. Scores of men fall around him. Goth spears finally drive Belisarius and his men back towards the Porta Salaria.
Hi, we're visible. We're the wireless company with nothing to hide. Seriously, hidden fee?
Yeah.
What a Chad. Dude's fighting in the front lines, giving off those Alexander the Great vibes, right? Fighting there. That's insane. But yeah, you need every man at this point, right? Like, yeah.
At first, its defenders don't recognize Belisarius, covered in dust and gore, and won't let him in. He's forced to launch another desperate charge to drive the Goths back from the walls. Finally, the gate is opened, and he and his men get back into the city. The siege of Rome begins. The city is too large for Witigis to completely surround. He builds 7 fortified camps north of the city and cuts the aqueducts that have supplied Rome with water for 800 years. There will be no baths for the Romans, but the city's wells will still supply drinking water. When Belisarius rejects calls to surrender, the Goths begin building rams, ladders, and siege towers for a major assault. 18 days later, they attack. But their inexperience in siege warfare is soon evident. Their towers are pulled by oxen. The Romans shoot all the animals, and the towers are left stranded. The Goths assault the city from multiple directions. The mausoleum of Hadrian, converted into a fortress, comes under heavy pressure. But eventually, the Goths are thrown back on all fronts. That night, the Romans celebrate a great victory, lighting fires and singing from the battlements. Both sides prepare for a long siege. Belisarius is an inspiring presence in the city, active, calm, and confident, even when others begin to despair. He has written to Justinian urgently requesting reinforcements. Now he oversees every aspect of the city's defense and supply. He orders all non-combatants to travel south to Naples, so there are fewer mouths to feed. He has the keys to the gates changed regularly to reduce the risk from treachery, while his Berber mercenaries patrol at night with dogs to detect any surprise attack. His wife, Antonina, also takes an active role. When the Pope is suspected of conducting secret talks with the Goths, she demands, "Tell us, Lord Pope Silverius, what have we done to you and the Romans to make you want to betray us to the Goths?" The Pope is arrested and sent out of the city.
Dang, imagine throwing the Pope out of Rome. Baller. Dang, that's hardcore. But yeah, Belisarius being a true leader is just hands-on, right? The man, he has to be. There's no other choice. This is like literally fight or die at this point with their small numbers. And it's, you know, obviously, thank goodness the Goths just aren't good at sieging, because I kind of agreed with their plan of attacking on multiple fronts, because like he mentioned earlier, you know, defending Rome's hard enough, right? And especially with a small army like he does, like, all fronts attacks from multiple directions, if they were, like, more experienced with sieges, might have just done him in. So that was a fortunate break an outcome.
A month into the siege, Belisarius receives much-needed reinforcements. 1,600 cavalry, mostly Huns and Slavs, led by Martinus and Valerian. Belisarius has seen that the Goths have no mounted archers. Now he can use his own to make hit-and-run attacks against the enemy. A few hundred horsemen will ride within range of the Goths, shower them with arrows, then fall back under covering fire from the city walls. Procopius counts 67 actions of this type, both large and small. Almost all are won by the Romans because of their superior cavalry.
Wow.
The victories raise morale and frustrate the enemy, but they will not break the siege.
The Huns are insane.
The situation deteriorates dramatically when the Goths take Portus, Rome's port at the mouth of the river Tiber, making it much more difficult to get supplies into the city. By September, 6 months into the siege, hunger and sickness begin to take hold. Even the army's mules are killed to make sausages. The citizens of Rome beg Belisarius to stake everything on one decisive battle for the city. But he refuses, telling them, "You act as though you were playing dice and want to risk everything on a single roll, but it is not my custom to choose the short course over the best course."
Dang, dropping bars on them. Dropping truth bombs. I can't fully blame the citizens. Like, sieges are awful, and just like starving out is sieges might be one of the most brutal and unfun aspects of war. Well, actually, wait, that came out wrong. War isn't fun, but it is one of the aspects where war gets really, really ugly. Not that it isn't already, but yeah, at this point, just let the man do what he needs to do, right? Like, at this point, you're in it.
Instead, Belisarius sends Antonina and Procopius to Naples, with instructions to use his authority to requisition all grain and every soldier who can be spared, and send both to Rome. 500 men and a convoy of supplies are soon rolling up the Via Appia. They're followed by 1,800 cavalry reinforcements, who land at Dryas, modern Otranto. Then 3,000 Isaurians arrive at Naples aboard grain ships and travel on to Ostia by sea. After months of delay, the vast resources of the Eastern Roman Empire are finally coming to Belisarius' aid. The garrison of Rome launch a series of diversionary attacks on the Goths. These allow the supplies, under Antonina's direction, to slip into the city. The threat of starvation is ended.
Antonia and Belisarius are a power couple. Like, people always talk about, like, Emperor Justinian and, you know, Theodora, they're a power couple, but I'm like, yeah, they are, but also, like, Belisarius and his wife, like, dang, just two power couples back to back, right? That's amazing.
It's the last straw for Vitiges. His own men have been camped outside Rome for almost a year, harassed by the enemy, themselves decimated by disease and hunger. The Ostrogoth king asks for a truce, to open negotiations with the emperor. He offers Justinian all of southern Italy, but it is not enough. The initiative has swung to Belisarius. Belisarius has sent an elite force of 2,000 cavalry, commanded by John, north into Picenum, behind enemy lines. When the Goths break the terms of the truce, Belisarius orders John to unleash hell. Almost all the Goth warriors are away on military service. Their farms and settlements are completely exposed. John sacks, burns, and plunders at will, enslaving hundreds of Goth women and children. Romans are not harmed. Vitigis's uncle gathers a small force to challenge John. They're no match for his Bucellari. John ignores the Goth strongholds at Urbino and Auximum, but at the invitation of its citizens, occupies the walled city of Ariminum, just 30 miles south of the Ostrogoth capital at Ravenna. Vitigis has no choice but to abandon the siege, and march north to defend the Goth heartland.
Insane.
Against the odds, under-resourced and outnumbered, Belisarius has triumphed in one of history's most epic sieges. A siege that has lasted 1 year and 9 days.
Wow.
Because of him, the city of Romulus and the Caesars once more belongs to the Roman Empire.
Heck yeah.
The war against the Goths in Italy seems to be entering its final phase. Belisarius's position appears unassailable. But, as every emperor knows, the history of the empire has been blighted time and again by the treachery of overmighty generals.
Oh.
Belisarius's victories are as glorious as any in Rome's history. How can Justinian not regard him with suspicion? Soon, Belisarius will find himself facing new rivals from within the empire, just as an old enemy re-emerges in the east.
Yeah, Belisarius, you're too good. You're too competent. It's a threat to everyone. Oh, great. The Sassanids are back.
Big thanks to
So yeah, that's kind of the thing, right? Never outshine your masters or whatever, and yeah, I think there was an interesting saying that when Augustus offered his daughter to marry Agrippa, I think one of his friends or advisors was like, you either have to kill Agrippa or marry him to the family because he's too powerful, right? And so I think that was a reason as to why Agrippa, who basically is responsible for Augustus becoming emperor by winning the great battles, you know, of Actium and whatnot. Yeah, Justinian, you're gonna have to learn from history. Get a daughter. Does he even have kids? I don't know. Make a daughter and offer her hand in marriage when she's older, but oh, that's still gonna be weird. Either way, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do something. Oh man, yeah, Belisarius, man. He's gonna have to. He's just too good, man. But I really like him. The dude literally took back Rome for the Romans. Are you kidding me? Like, that's amazing. His accomplishments at the speed in which he's getting them are just astounding. And yeah, we're definitely gonna see more next time. So I'm gonna end the video right here. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, everyone.